Okay, now continuing on my demo of Lake Maligne. Getting ready here. So I did a little bit of the blue just so you'd see where I'm going. It dried nicely. I think I just did a little bit of glazing in the blue to deepen it because it wasn't deep enough. The value was not deep and dark enough in the clouds, so I glazed over the blue with indent throne blue. So now we're going to start, and then I did a little bit of blue here to get the horizon line straight so we can continue on the lower part, and then we'll come back to the upper part of the mountains and trees. But let's get the bottom going. So I'm going to skim with my gray, got the same palette. The only thing I did was I added a little black to it. Same palette as the sky. And here we're going to put in some of the gray tones, add maybe a little black to it to get it a little deeper. Yeah, that's good. Skim it, keeping some of those drips. A lot of them are going to go away, but you know, they're there for usefulness, maybe, maybe not. So let's get this gray here. I'm going to go into green a little bit. Skimming the direction of the rocky surface under the water. The water is streaming to the left and to the right of center, so I'm making my marks diagonally like that. Add a little bit of blue to it so it's not so dull. Back to this palette knife. This one gets more skim on it. Because I'm not getting the bottom because of my wall easel, I'm going to go to the brush. It's so vertical that I'm not getting to it down here. So I'm going to skim it with the brush. Now we're going to add some white and warm white to model this into here. So I'm just going to lighten it up a little bit so we can get the values of grays from mid-gray to light gray. It's a little too blue. Add some warm gray to it. Maybe a little bit of red, transparent red oxide, just to get a little bit more warmth. I'm changing palette knife so I can get to everything. This one is good. Some plain white. Okay, so that's just enough gray to get going, but I think I'm going to use this short flat and do some work with this to blend it, because it's a little tricky with a palette knife. I'm just going to blend it on the surface. I'm actually blending, mixing, see what I get. Just patting the colors, the direction of that flow, to see what we get here. The palette knife is serving me well, but since it's flat against the wall, it's not serving me well enough, so I'm going to go to the brush. I'm going to add a little warmth to my white with the Indian yellow. See how that mixes. And maybe a little of the red, transparent red oxide. Might be too red. No, it looks good there. Some of this transparent red oxide from the underneath is coming through, and it's nice when it peeks through. And spreading the love. Pat, 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 pat. These stand of grasses are going to be fun. Coming through there. There's some here. Okay, I'm going to go back to palette knife and see if I can scrape and modify some things. See what we get with, now that it's skimmed. Scrape and redeliver. Scrape the paint and redeliver. Maybe some more reddish gray. More warm gray, more reddish tones of the red, transparent red oxide, more white. Maybe a little blue. I just want to get that gray, different tones of gray. Blue gray, red gray, black gray, maybe some yellow gray, we'll see. Okay. I'm going to take the shaper and see what this does with blending and moving around some of those tones of the gray. There's rocks under there, so it's going to be very directional. The colors are directional. You can see them pulling over the rock. So this is going to have a little bit of play here with different tools to see what we get. Just want to get the tones of the gray right, mostly. Might have to scrape it up again and redeliver it. That's what it's all about, is variety. So I already got that blue there a little bit so it can just blend right into it. The transitions. Okay, let's go ahead and define some darker areas of the rock so we can see what we have. All right, let's get into this gray with a little black in it. And I'm going to put some raw umber right here. I think I might need it. Yeah, raw umber is, when you don't know what to do, raw umber is so good. Gotta draw a little bit more here. I'm gonna add a little red. Some of this cool red, see what it does. Just trying to deepen it a little. Yeah, that's better. I'm gonna get something in here so the grasses can go over it. Make some green. A little Indian yellow, a little cool yellow. A lighter version, a darker version of green. Using blue and yellow, of course. Even lighter. Okay, let's see what we get here. Some Indian yellow down here. I'm just going to, from yesterday, I'm just going to pull it off and stick it on there. Clean the knife. Okay. Pull those grasses over that rock, and then we'll work around the grasses. Less is more. All right, let's see if we can pull that white around it, that whitish, grayish water flowing with the palette knife. Get a couple little flow places of water, then it'll be believable. That's probably believable enough for now. Some over here. Just a little bit here and there. You don't have to finish every piece. Just want to get the puzzle started. And some white across it. Let's see if we can interrupt these shapes by using the palette knife to pat it up and down. It's probably enough for now to believe that's happening, and then we can alter it later. Give it some play. And then we can fix the rock behind it in a minute. Let's keep going on this water. It's very abstracted, so a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Keep the knife clean at this point because there's a lot of paint on there, and we want to just keep letting it grab onto the wet paint and do its thing. So you've got to have it to be clean to do that. Wipe it and go. I want to add a little bit of Indian yellow to this white, warm it up a bit. Yeah, better. Tiny bit of Indian yellow. A bit more Indian yellow and white. And I think I'll have to take the brush and play with it because of this situation on the wall here. Short flat. See what we can do with it. Maybe a little bit more purpley red here. Take this again, see if we can use it to blend some without losing some of the streaks that the palette knife created. Light touch, like you're putting lotion on a sunburned piece of skin. I'm going to create flow, directional movement. This diagonal is nice here. It matched, you know, the mountain diagonal, so we want to keep that. All those dynamic planes we want to keep. So we're just moving what we have made with the palette knife a little bit more interestingly. Directional pull of the water. Tiny little touches that don't interrupt too much of what the palette knife did already. Of course, we can alter that later and add to, or just pat some more color around some places that look more interesting. That reddish tone in there is nice. The gray, reddish gray tone. That's probably enough for now. You can get a little crazy with it. Too much, but let's put some white on top of that. Yeah. Directional water. Moving into those grasses. Could do that with palette knife better, probably. Yeah. Just pulling it with the palette knife, and this skinny one is serving me well here. Direction of the water. Let's give that a rest. You know, you can get crazy. All right, let's go to the rocks. Probably have some of this yellow white enough right here to use. yellow and red and white. It makes it sort of a warm whitish, reddish tint. To get this rock in here, I'm just taking a brush and just rubbing on it so it keeps the texture of a thick, dense rock. I don't want it to be too smooth. I want it to have the rubbles that the brush is creating moving over the dry paint. And I can come behind it with the water. Let's put some yellow in that, a little bit more yellow at the top. Looks like the sun's kicking that up a little bit with the yellow. And maybe some of this little piece of red, I can incorporate it in it. It's reddish and yellow and reddish and yellow and varied tones of light. Some more Indian yellow down here. That's light enough. We can also put some palette knife texture on top of it with the same color. Maybe that'll work. Let's see. So it's not so flat. That's probably enough for now. Let's just get this one going. Light and dark of the rock. It's really, really dark, and it's really mid-tone throughout the middle, and then of course these pops of light where the sun's hitting on the flat face of the rock. And this one's really light at the top. Down here, a little bit above the grasses. The grasses will go into that light place. I'm just going to pull the paint over that dry piece so it's textural. Let's see, this brush had dark on it. Let's darken that again. Here. It's better to have a light brush and a dark brush. They're both short flats. Shape it a little with this rubber shaper. Now, I'm doing this more realistically than I like to do because we just need to understand it. We can always abstract it more later or change the style of it. We need to get the values, the dark and light right. We need to get the rocks, how they're positioned there. And then we can alter them to be more abstracted, more transcending, whatever you want to call it, or transformative into something a bit more interesting than high realism. A lot of times I go ahead and do it very realistically, and then I deconstruct it, as you will, with lack of a better word, and making it a little bit more abstracted as I go along. But in the beginning I have to get it right, the dark and light right, There's sort of a bridge here of dark. It's dark, but there's water on it. Sometimes I just put paint on this rubber shaper and knock it around a bit. It delicately puts the paint there without messing up what you have. There's more dark in the grasses than I put. Just pat some dark in. A bit more of the yellow. See what that does. Flick it. Water, so it needs to be interrupted down and across. All right, let's go and make these trees here. I just want to break from that, and this is not going to be finished today. I just want to get you going and get you started on what you want to do next. If you are doing the whole lake, get going on that. If not, if you're doing pieces of it, this should help you with your pieces of it. It's rock or water or clouds, whatever you plan to do with it. You know, it's very easy for me to start to work all this in by scraping and deconstructing, but I can do that later. So let's go ahead to the dark of the trees. So we're just going to go ahead and skim this a little, get it wet with skimming. This is the blue and yellow and red together to make an evergreen kind of color. And I think I've got some Indian yellow. I'm going to add some more Indian yellow to it so it's more evergreen color. Skim that. Because this is pretty much the underneath color here that I rub with the wet one to get it going, get it started. Skimming. Here's some more Indian yellow here. I'm going to add it to this green so it's more of a warmer evergreen color. More paint, please. More skimming. Okay, let's take this and straighten up these trees a little. Some are going to be tall. And I could just use a brush later if I need to get in there. But this will give me the texture I need with a palette knife that the brush won't give me. I don't have to get it perfect, I just have to get it believable for now. Skim and then pat, push, left, right. That's believable for now. Let's get this. Remember, this was the center, and we wanted to offset these trees from the center to the left. We did not want these to be dead center. Okay, that's believable for now. That's pretty good. These pat, push, pat, push, pat, push. Scrape, pat, whatever, however you want to determine the language so you can get your rhythm. You know, I pretty much did the mountains with the tone of the undertone and the ultramarine blue over the transparent red oxide, and they look pretty good. I just did, when I got some of the white in with the floppy paper towel, I did that here. So we could probably, this is all dry, we can work some brush in there because it's really nice. You might just want to leave it, or because it's more abstracted, or if you were doing more hyper-realism, more realistic tones, you might get the brush and get some nuances of the rock face for sure. I don't know how abstract I want this. Right now I want it pretty realistic so you can see the process, and then we'll determine later on what we're going to do with the rest. Okay, I've got this green color, and the green, I had taken a wet one and used Cobra and just wet this with the Indian yellow, and it turned out to be the green I wanted, which is sort of a brown green. So that was pretty good, and I hate to even go in there now. I feel like that would be the last thing I'll do, is the water transitioning to that shadowy green place. I imagine this is the shadow of the mountain and the trees coming here. Anyway, I think I'm going to probably finish this up for you because I don't want to do too much more, because you need to get it in your head what you want to do. I could keep doing this in stages, so a little by little you can understand. Let's just put some of this Indian yellow down here in the grasses so it looks lighter at the top. It's almost too much. Leave it to the top. I want to get these done so that I can work the water around it later. Yeah, that's probably all you need. Upward, pat, pat, whatever it takes to get that. The rocks are going to need more work, but for now I think they look pretty good. I can scrape these darker ridges in there. I can do all kinds of stuff, but I don't want to do too much more. I want you guys to use this as inspiration. And I don't know if I will work on this for you next session. We'll just see how well it turns out. Sometimes you screw up, and you just start to scrape things out. But so far, I think I'm not unhappy. I wanted to get that dark shadow just some of these things you have to do it while it's wet, or you're going to lose this nice grab situation that the palette knife gives you. Okay, all right, so for now we're going to give it a rest, and you continue on, and I'll post this in the chat and you can make comments. Of course, this is not finished, but this is probably phase 3, and I need a couple more phases. Okay, cheerio.